All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
You ready? All right, we're doing a video on adventure. It's our theme this month.
Let's do it.
So we're going to post on adventure. We're going to write on adventure. We're doing a video on adventure.
Adventure.
This video seems to be starting off pretty slow for a video on adventure.
Yeah, that's true.
I think what's interesting about adventure is, to some people, what's interesting to me about adventure is some people think it's skydiving or climbing a mountain or all this adrenaline stuff. And I don't like any of that. Like, I've never been the person to do any of that.
Right.
But I get my adrenaline like going on stage and like the and having no script or doing improv and knowing that I could completely make a fool out of myself. And that's like that type of emotional adventure or vulnerability is a lot more exciting to me than like riding 100 miles on my bike. It's just not my gig.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. I agree. I think, yeah, adventure seems like what just was in the news, right? Taking the submarine down to see the Titanic. And that was quite an adventure.
That's an adventure, but if it doesn't work out, you're dead. So like,
Dead.
nobody, you don't have to live with it. Nobody's
No.
like, did you say that on stage?
Right.
Did you really admit that to yourself?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're going to walk off the stage more than likely.
No, I mean, if you die on stage, like, first of all, you're not even supposed to kill your characters on stage. It just makes for bad acting.
Yeah.
Like, then you have to lay there until somebody calls scene.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's really weird. Or you could come back to life, because it's staged. You could be like, oh, I wasn't really dead. But
Right.
the point being, that submarine thing. And like, I mean, some like people have done really great, like adventure holics or the adrenaline holics, like Richard Branson has done a lot of great things with that mindset, or I don't know, great things, but like built big companies.
Right.
So I'm not passionate. It's just not mine.
I love that you brought up like the emotional adventure, because as I was reflecting on it, I think that's where I find where I am most adventurous is in that place within me. But I didn't call it that, because like you, like, I'm not gonna jump out of an airplane. I'm not doing any of that stuff. And so I was really thinking, like, am I adventurous? But when I looked up the definition, it was like taking a risk. It's risk, and there's excitement and risk, or like doing something that has excitement and risk attached to it.
Yeah.
And I can think of many things in my life emotionally, or like my inner world, that has been quite an adventure. Perhaps it doesn't look like the adventure that we see in more of like the physical sense.
It's like an unknowing. For me, I don't ever click with the recipe. Ever. I can like look at a recipe and be like, okay, I can see that. All right. And then I like just do my own thing. Because if I know how this thing exactly is going to turn out, I don't want to do it.
Right. Same. That's adventure.
That's adventure. The adventure I'm struggling with, go ahead.
No, go.
The adventure I'm struggling with right now is sometimes just sitting still.
Yeah. Say more.
One of the things I've realized lately is that because we don't have to first of all, we don't have to grow our own food, which saves a ton of time. And now you don't even really have to even make your own food, which I happen to do at least 2 out of 3 meals a day. Usually I do all 3 meals at home. I don't know, but there's all this extra time.
Yeah.
There's so much extra time. And so then when you sit still, I mean, there's an adventure in sitting still, in the sense that you're going to places and allowing things to happen. And it's an adventure, but it's also sometimes really boring.
Yeah. What's the risk in being bored?
Yeah. Well, and that's that. Yeah, great. Was that a rhetorical question,
No
or do you know
question.
the answer to it?
I'm asking you. If you're
Yeah.
having a hard time doing it,
Well, I mean, I have practices like meditation or somatic practices, and then you can go, and then you're like, okay, I went there. Now what?
yeah. Right.
Okay, now what? Like, and I think one of the things I'm seeking right now is a place that I can live where I can go for walks, because right now it's just so hot here. I'm indoors a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, at least I could be walking and doing nothing.
Right.
Because sitting still and doing nothing is kind of hard for me.
Yeah.
That's my adventure.
And as you say that, like, I accept that that's yours. And then I think I'm on the complete opposite end, that I don't know that I want to call it my adventure, but definitely, like, I don't feel like I have a lot of time right now. I feel like time is something that I crave. And again, as I was thinking about adventure, I almost thought, like, I don't have time to be adventurous,
You
but
don't have time to
perhaps
what?
to be adventurous. But again, I was thinking of it more in the physical sense. Like, I don't have time to create some new goal for myself. I mean, I'm with travel. I think travel's adventurous. You and I both have trips coming up, and that takes time. But in day-to-day life, as I was thinking about adventure, like, God, I just don't have time to be adventurous. But as I hear you challenge yourself, that your adventure right now is to be bored, kind of. That's again back to what you named earlier, that inner adventure of,
Hmm.
and I think I kind of do that every day, like raising kids. There's an adventure, there's a risk, kind of excitement to it. You're making a lot of decisions. So that's kind of helpful to reframe that, where I could have said, I don't have a very adventurous life. Or, oh, okay, I can talk about adventure because I'm going to Africa at the end of July. That's an adventure. It's like a reframe that there's an adventure in almost every day for all of us, really.
Well, if an adventure is an unknowing, then yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got a whole agenda today and things I need to do, but I'm not really sure they're going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Ooh, risky.
And I think it's interesting. Like, I worked in the travel industry. That was one of my first jobs in college, was working on cruise ships and after college. And it's entirely possible to travel with no adventure.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's entirely possible to travel without going anywhere. And that's what I
Yeah.
was referring to myself as, like, going deep within. And that might sound like, okay, well, what does deep within mean? But just feeling what's going on in your body would just be an example of that.
Mm-hmm.
And accepting it. Now, I didn't do a great job of feeling and accepting what's going on in my body, because I ran out to get coffee this morning because I was like, no, I need a boost.
Yeah.
Um,
Same.
yeah. And then that actual coffee, now this wasn't planned, but that coffee gave me a sense of adventure. Like, I had a bit of a buzz, an adrenaline from it. And then here I am now, coming down.
In a good way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And to your point of people can travel and not have the sense of adventure, I just think it's interesting what we tie it to. And I think that's kind of a place where greater range, greater awareness can come from, is to really think about that. Because as you're saying, traveling, we think of that as like, that's an adventure. But if it's something you're used to, or if you aren't opening yourself up to new possibilities, or kind of breaking out of the way you do things, or like a fixed mindset, and not being open to what's going on around you, that's the adventure of travel, I think, right? Is seeing new things, experiencing new things, getting out of your routine a little bit. But some people carry that sense of structure and routine and process into those experiences and lose that. At least that's what I'm hearing. Is that what you meant?
I wouldn't say structure, routine, and process, because I actually really love process and I like structure and I like routine. I would say certainty.
Okay.
Or a false sense of certainty, because I believe, like you and I were earlier working on process around the Center for Conscious Family, and how we were going to integrate a CRM and communicate to one another. So that process, structure, and what was the other word you used? Process, structure, and routine will create a space for us to be adventure. But we haven't used those to create certainty. Like if you're looking for certainty all the time, I think certainty is the opposite, now that I'm thinking of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to think of that in the day-to-day too, that certainty. I think we can get kind of lack of adventure would be like being apathetic, or kind of being in the mundane. I don't know. What do you think is the opposite of feeling adventurous?
Well, of feeling adventurous. Yeah. So when I don't feel adventurous, I feel unmotivated, listening, apathy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we leave, like, so when we're going day to day, so going back to you and I talking about like the adventure in the day to day, when we don't allow there to be a level of uncertainty, or we fear it and we try to control it in a sense, we can kind of create that lower vibe within ourselves. So there is something, I really like the word uncertain, like allowing space for like kind of the magic to happen, the unknown to happen.
Yeah. In Atlanta, there was this bar called St. Augustine's, and it was a fun place, but it was always, I don't think very many people have the Catholic upbringing that I did that know the informal prayer of St. Augustine, which was, Lord, make me chaste,
Okay.
but not yet.
Right.
And that reminds me of this, where it's like, God, give me certainty, but not too much, like,
right. Yeah.
Because if you give me, like, so how can I create enough certainty for adventure, and then hopefully be able to live off of less and less certainty over time? It is how I see kind of an amplification or expansion.
Yeah, I completely agree. And as you're speaking, and I think even what the prayer there is reflecting is, we need a certain amount of safety there to be
Sure.
able to go out, right? And so it's like, give me some of that, so I can be, and just as you were reflecting on us prior to jumping on here, building the foundation for the center for families, we need that to feel safe as we walk into kind of the unknown.
Yeah, and so do the families that we work with. If we said, yeah, just come on in, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, we don't have rules.
Right.
Yeah.
When I think about I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
When I think about, when we met at the Gestalt training,
2019. Mm-hmm.
right? And wow, we've lived through a lot of uncertainty since then. But walking in there, and for those that have no idea what we're talking about, we go into this center kind of for professionals for further development, specifically around facilitation. And it's a really loose structure, right? Like, yes, where we're going is named, the amount of time spent on certain things, but it really flows. And for a lot of us, I think it was kind of like, what are we doing? like, how are we going to fill all this time? What's going on? Especially in the GEW, which was an experience weekend where all the experiences just unfolded.
Yeah.
But what is coming to me is, in that facilitation training, they taught us how to create a container of safety to allow for the experientials to happen in a way that could unfold, I think, beyond what we even could have imagined. And as we're speaking of the center for, for families, or just conversation, life in general, that container of safety being so important, so you can feel adventurous, you can get kind of that thrill, the excitement expand further than you would remain without that. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yeah, that we were given a container there. The center is the container for you and I to function. And beyond that, we create containers for families so that they can talk. Because oftentimes families are not communicating about money or any other topic as well as they could be, because there's not a sense of safety.
Yes.
Yeah. And yeah.
When I think about that inner, probably greatest adventure for me, I think it was Gestalt, allowing that to unfold within me, the process to unfold. And when I was thinking about, like, the most adventurous times in my life, and I would say it was in the journey of trying to have a child, and then in the times when I've tried to really deeply reflect within myself, and in that growth process remain safe enough within myself to allow new truths, like, to emerge.
Yeah, new truths in children.
Yeah. Similar and yet not. Yeah.
The adventure continues.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about you? What's your greatest adventure so far?
I'm gonna press pause. Or I'm not gonna press pause. I got to make sure I'm not burning something. I'm back.
Okay.
Oh, am I dark again? I gotta figure that part out. What if I get in closer? Sometimes it lightens up. I gotta get my ring light out of. Oh,
There you
okay.
go.
Okay. What's my biggest adventure? My biggest adventure. Sorry, I'm just playing around with that.
It's okay.
That looks so okay. We'll have to go with it. I'll work on lighting. Aha! My biggest adventure is probably leaving Atlanta, putting my stuff in storage, and going on the road for a year. And not really knowing where I was going to live the next month, and going into a new city for pretty much 12 months in a row, staying in Airbnbs. And I was still working, right? Like, it was, I still went to work every day.
Right.
And it was a time where one phase of my life, Atlanta, a relationship was ending, and not knowing what was coming next, and not in a hurry to start the next thing, allowing to figure out what was going to happen. And the hardest part about that was really not knowing where I was going to be staying the following month. So I went from, like, Alaska for a month to Montreal for a month. And those were both adventures. Every day was new. But leaving Montreal, I really didn't know. I didn't even know I was going to Montreal until I was in Alaska. And so it was a physical shifting of place, like this travel that we spoke of. But because I didn't have my network in all of these cities, it really allowed me to create space to figure out like who was I on my own. Yeah. There's a lot of time on my hands. I mean, Alaska is 20 hours of daylight.
Right.
So it's like I would go for a hike, 5 hours, have lunch, and I'd be like, okay, there's still 10 hours of the daylight.
Now what? Yeah.
Now what? Yeah. Yeah. I had to put myself to bed every night, like at a time that I knew I was supposed to sleep.
Yeah.
It's an amazing place. So that's probably my biggest adventure. And it was a combination of within and then circumstances.
Yeah.
I could go on forever about this, and I also feel like I've said what I needed to.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So we'll do this again next month, and we'll keep going at it. Trying a new topic each month. If you have any ideas of topics, please let us know. All of you people out there in the world, hopefully somebody's watching this. And and thank you.